This is the Grapple of Your Eye show, episode 36, Ross McFarlane. Hello and welcome to the Grapple of Your Eye show. My guest today is Ross McFarlane. He is a coach at Glasgow Wrestling Club. He is also a two-time British wrestling champion and is also represented at the Commonwealth Games as well. So please, big welcome to the show for you, Ross. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me on, Brett. Cheers.
No problem at all. Now, as it's your first time on the show, you get the first time guest question. Where did it start for you? Where did it all begin?
Well, obviously, I went to the WW. It was the WWF when I was growing up. Enjoyed a bit of wrestling. I was pretty small for my age. See, even when I was about 11 years old, I still only weighed about 4 stone. And as I went to high school and things, wanted to bulk up a bit. And I spoke to my uncle, who he was into the arm wrestling, into the weightlifting, and he said, "Why don't you come down Milngavie Wrestling Club?" And I remember him taking us down there when I was about 5 years old and stuff. So actually, probably that's when it probably first got the bug for it, actually. Um, and from when I went down, I loved it. And within 2 years, I pretty much doubled my weight, nearly, just because of all the training we were doing and extra eating and stuff. So yeah, that would have been about the year 2000, and I was trained under David Scott Senior and David Scott Junior, as well as my uncle helped about in the club. You had Mick Cannon down there as well, a couple other folks, and just get right into it. We used to train a Friday night, a Saturday morning, and then as we started going to the competitions and winning medals, Davy Scott started taking us to other clubs through in Denny, Cumbernauld on Tuesday and Thursday nights and stuff, and just really loved the sport. I found it that it was a sport that didn't really discriminate, because I'm quite small. I'm only 5'4", so when I was playing rugby, when I was playing football, hit puberty, all my mates went that way, and I kind of didn't. And I was told by football coaches and stuff, you're too small and stuff, which probably put like a wee bit of a chip on my shoulder, like, I'll kind of show you. So getting into wrestling, and there wasn't really that disadvantage, if you want to call it that. Yeah, just took it on. Went to my first competition. I think it was the Trist Open. Get beat off of Finlay Marshall. Remember that? It was only two of us in the weight. But just wanted to come back and get more involved, learn more about the sport. And within a year, Davy had us winning a couple of Scottish championships. Back then, they'd done the East of Scotland, West of Scotland. Going down and doing the English. There was the Aspel Championships. And just over the next kind of 4 years, I don't think I dominated the 42 kilo category, but I was certainly up there. I was always really first or second. I can't really remember who was rivaling me at the time. And then I was lucky enough to get picked by the British team to go to Latvia at the age of 15. So I was away out there for, I think it was a 2-week camp.
What was that like? Because if you're competing at, like you say, a national level and doing all the tournaments, to then step up for something international, was it a big step, or were you training that much? It was kind of along the
I
same
think from,
lines.
from from a fitness point of view and a strength point of view, we were on the same level. I mean, the way we trained, the way Davey had us trained, my uncle had us trained, we were very, very fit, very, very strong for our age. I think the technical aspect we were lacking on, but again, with the training that we were being put through at Milngavie Wrestling Club, it just built a grit and a determination in us. I think for me personally, at that age, I probably just got in my own head. Like, I knew there was a kind of strategic element to wrestling, whereas, and a tactical element, whereas we were kind of just trained to just attack, and just
Yeah.
keep going, and be able to, last that kind of 4-minute match, at full at 100% the whole time, without tiring. So that was what we had then, which kind of could rival those that were a wee bit more, technically better than us, I would say. But a fantastic experience to go to Latvia at a young age and just see how these kind of more Eastern Europeans trained and things like that. It was a great experience for somebody of that age, to get to go.
How did it match up when you got there? Was there anything different, like with technique wise or strength? What how did you
I,
find it?
I mean, well, you're talking. It was a good 23 years ago now, so I'll be honest. I can't remember exactly, but we had. I do remember it being a great training camp. It was the first time that I'd went to somewhere that you were training 3, 4 times a day. You
Yeah,
were out, at 6:30 in the morning, and we done this big, massive trail run, some kind of techniques on this kind of concrete play park, and then you would get your breakfast. And I was a terrible eater, Brett. Right, so away from home. I just couldn't eat it. Like, I don't eat eggs or anything. And what was put to you in the morning was sliced beetroot and an egg,
yeah, yeah. I don't
just a
blame you.
fried egg. And I'm just going,
I'm
well,
very much the same like that. Yeah,
but I'm like, I'm training 4 times a day. I can't not eat. So I'm like grudgingly like eating egg whites and
making
trying
me
to force
feel
them
bad thinking about it. Yeah.
buckwheat and beetroot down. So I mean, it was definitely an eye opener for what would like be in my later days going to these training camps
Mm.
when I was in my 20s and stuff. So I suppose to continue the journey, I didn't really know about the Commonwealth Games. I obviously knew there was the Olympics, but I never
Yeah.
expected to get there just because the sort of level that probably Britain was at the time in terms of wrestling. So when I kind of hit 18 and you go off to uni, discover alcohol, and yeah, I'd
Oh
kind of
yeah.
fallen away from it a wee bit. I was still going kind of ad hoc, but it wasn't regular as before. And then I got a full time job when I was around 2021, and I just kind of felt there was something missing in my life. And once I went back down to the club, I knew that's what it was. It
Yeah.
was it was that training and just that, pushing yourself. And I don't know, there's just something about wrestling that I just love. It's different. I enjoy playing golf. I used to play, five-a-sides with my mates and that, but something about wrestling, it just feels like it's part of me in some way. Like it's just right when I'm doing it. So started. I went to a competition in Wales. In fact, I suplexed Trevor. That's Trevor Hoskins. I remember the rules were a bit different then, and if you were 0-0 at half time, it was kind of pot luck. A hand would go in to a bag that either had a red ball or a blue ball. The ref would pick one of the colours out, whatever colour you were in. If that was the ball that came out, you took the advantage position. And unfortunately for Trevor, I got that advantage position. And as soon as the ref blew his whistle, I was straight up in the air with him. Uh, but yeah, I obviously had the love for it again after that. I got asked to go in 2010 down to Largs. They've got a great sports centre down there, and the Scottish team, were training to go to the Commonwealth Games in India. And that was really my first kind of hearing about that sort of level of international competition. And I'll tell you, I was so jealous knowing that these guys were going to represent Scotland in India, Commonwealth Games. It's going to be all over telly. And
Mm.
obviously then realizing that it was going to be in Glasgow in 2014, it was like, right, let's like get the
Yeah.
head down for the next four
The
years.
stars are aligned here. Let's do this. Yeah. I get you.
Yeah. So like for the next 4 years, I was then working with Vladimir Gladkov, who, for me, technically wise, is just levels above. Like, it probably took me about 2 years of working with him. And but when I say working with him, we were training. There was the option for at least 10 training sessions a week. And, I'd be at least at 6 or 7 of them, all 2 hour sessions. So I really got to, pick his brain, and the level of detail was incredible. And it took me about two years to really understand what he was trying to get me to do. And the way I kind of describe it to people sometimes is Davy Scott taught me how to win wrestling matches, and Vlad taught me how to wrestle. And that's not to be like Davy Scott's like fantastic for what he showed me. Like as I say, in my junior days, I still see him. You know, he's my first coach, and really, I won a lot of medals under Davy. It's just that the way Vlad started explaining wrestling to me, it just changed, and probably because I was older and maturer as well, I probably
Yeah.
started understanding things a bit better, you know. Um, and then once those things started clicking, how to like link moves together and setting up opponents properly, and actually like thinking about things like where are you in a match? You know, is there 10 seconds to go till half time and you're 2-0 up, or are you 2-0 down? Like what you need to change depending on that. So you know he changed how I think about thought about wrestling, or think actually still sometimes like even I put into my coaching, I try to take what he taught me and implement that into my kids and the seniors that I coach. Um, and then yeah, to continue the journey, Brett, we got to 2014, having like went to a lot of different competitions, domestic and abroad. As you mentioned earlier on, winning a couple of British Championships, which I had to do. I had to, qualify to be part of the Scotland team.
Yeah.
So there was two British Championships. They were two qualifiers, and there was the South African Commonwealth. I think that's called the Commonwealth Championships. It was in South Africa, and I placed fifth there. Really, I still get annoyed that I didn't place third in medal. It was a really tough fight against one of the South African boys for the bronze medal. So I was the most qualified in the Scotland team for wrestling. And then, yep, 2014 comes around. So exciting, obviously, being in your home, in your hometown.
Yeah.
Loads of people that I knew had bought tickets to come and see me. And then, to be honest, I think that sense of occasion maybe got a wee bit of the best of me. Because walking, like, I remember being in the tunnel and walking out, hearing the roar, and my mind just goes blank. like, and I watch it. I've watched it back a couple of times, even recently, and you're just going, Ross, what are you doing? Like that? Why are you going that way? And that there was just times during the match where I just done things that I wouldn't usually do, and I get beat 9-0 in the 6 minutes, and it was off Craig Pilling, who was representing Wales, and he went on and won the bronze uh, medal. So, that was a tough one to take for a few years, especially when you look back and you see the mistakes that you made. But I eventually realised, there's more to the story than just that one match. There was winning the two British titles.
Yeah, the fact you got there to start with is a massive achievement for most athletes. You know what I mean?
It
Let
is.
alone to, don't put it down because it is a big thing.
And that's the thing though, but like for years, it was tough to get over until you realised that the stories maybe. In fact, where was I? I was at the 2022 Birmingham Games, and I was in the kind of lobby, and somebody had introduced me. Oh, Ross represented Scotland at the 2014 Games, and they went, "Oh, aye, how did you get on?" I went, "I get beat 9-0 by the eventual bronze medalist," and they went, "That's a great story." And it was just that, and it just suddenly clicked to me, and I went, "This is the story that I've been telling myself for the past 8 years, like beating myself up with this terrible story." And it was from then, and I used to go in to schools and talk to kids and stuff, and try to be inspirational to them, and it was like at that point I realized I'm telling this story all wrong. Like even for myself, I'm just depressing myself with this terrible story. I need to, I've worked all like so hard for it, and I did win medals, and then just on the day, Craig get the better of me, and the fact that he then went on to win bronze has got to be something as well, you know. So, it wasn't the end I wanted, obviously, in Glasgow, but I'm kind of at peace with it now, thankfully.
So what?
Um,
So what happened after that then? Is this when the coaching crept in as well, or is it?
so, well, I remember having a conversation with it was Vladimir's son, Alex, who did win a bronze medal
Mhm.
at Glasgow, and I talked about this idea for what I thought wrestling in Scotland could be, how we could make it more appealing to kids, because it really, you know, we had slightly over 100 members even after the 2014 Commonwealth Games. And I had this idea in my head, but I was doing a wee bit of training. There was the 2018 games in Australia. My firstborn son Jackson came along in 2016. I was also temporary president of Scottish Wrestling due to some political stuff.
Yeah,
Um, so I wasn't wrestling maybe as much as I would have liked. Obviously tried for 2018. I think I did win one other British Championships in the lead up to that. Pretty sure. I'd need to check back at the records or find medals or something somewhere. But I didn't make that team. They took 4 athletes. I wasn't part of that. But Joe Hendry was actually no Joe Hendry is in the WWE now.
oh
So he
yeah,
was,
I believe.
yeah. So he was part of that team that went off to Australia. Um, and then I mean I was training ad hoc, just not as much as I had been before. Um, I mean, my work had been great in the lead up to 2014 as well, with giving me months off work and stuff. So that
Yeah,
wasn't going to happen again because it wasn't, uh, in Glasgow. So it was just difficult. And as I say, raising my son, um, and I did try for the games in 2022 down in Birmingham, but again, just unfortunately, just didn't happen. Got a couple of bronze and silvers, but it just wasn't enough to make the team, unfortunately. And kind of officially retired last year, but I've kind of got my eye on the Scottish Championships next year to just get back. You just can't help yourself, you know. So if I can get myself back fit, then I will. But in terms of the coaching, um, it was in 2023 Scottish wrestling started. Um, Saying that they wanted to do more kind of kids development and stuff. And
yeah,
what Glasgow Wrestling Club was mainly a senior session, but it was mainly a senior session for the Scotland squad. And when they wanted to do kids, I got approached by Vasila Journey, sorry, and said, would you coach the kids? So something I always wanted to do. I'd got my coaching badges actually when I was my first one when I was 16. Davy Scott put me through that, and but what we were doing was the kind of old method of just come in, pay your fiver, we'll teach you some wrestling moves, and we just found ourselves in this, as quite a lot of clubs do, this consistent beginner cycle. You know, you've got a kid for 3 weeks, you start to get somewhere, newbie comes along, you need to go all the way back. It's boring for that kid you've had for 3 weeks. You lose them the following week, and you're just going round and round and round. So, realizing some of those challenges, I remembered the conversation that I'd had back in 2014 with Alex, and I set about how can we actually make this happen. I just sold my flat, so there was some money in the bank, thankfully, and it was kind of when AI was starting to kind of like
yeah.
you were hearing about these kind of AI picture generators. So I logged into one and I asked it to make me a picture of a honey badger wearing a wrestling singlet, right? And I mean, I can send you them later if you want. I got all the characters, and I thought, oh right, this looks the business. Um, Thankfully, I didn't go with them because because I then used the Fiverr, found a proper kind of designer, gave him those initial designs. I said, look, can you make them this colour and that colour? And what we have now is, I'll just show. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen, but like
Yeah.
that's the characters we've got there. It's night and day compared to what it started with. And I thought, right, okay, how are we going to do this? Um, Trying to come up with, a wee kind of story for each character, how I could make it obviously similar to like other grappling sports or martial arts with a belt
Yeah.
system. I mean, that was always the idea, but it was how how can I level kids up? What was the way to do it? And also how could we get out of that beginner cycle? And so I came up with running it in blocks. Eventually, I settled on blocks of 10. And I thought, well, that kind of ties them in for at least 10 weeks. So I've got 10 weeks with them. And it's not going to be, oh, it's raining outside. I can't be bothered sitting in traffic. So the
Yeah.
parents kind of going, well, I'm not going to do that. Or if the kid can't be bothered, then the parent's not going to drag them along either. So at least if the parents have already paid up front, there's kind of an incentive from the parent to take them.
Yeah.
And then it's just up to me to make sure that they're enjoying the sessions. So that was probably towards the end of 2023. Um, and I was ready to go by January 2024. And we still only had, 7 to 10 kids. But it was ad hoc, some sessions I was only maybe getting 4 kids. Um, and I had to convince parents that I was going to be doubling the amount of money that they were going to pay me up front, and that I had a plan. And they bought into it, which I was really chuffed with. And by the summer, we had about 16 kids. A year on top of that, so 18 months in, just before the summer, we had 35 kids. So to grow in 18 months from having somewhere between 5 and 7, 10 ad hoc to having a solid 35 kids in a program is phenomenal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, if so, what I don't know if you want me to just explain how the program works.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'm definitely. So I'm actually just listening now. I forgot to even ask you a question now. I'm not drawn into it because we did in our club actually. We've done a similar thing where we've introduced like a level like coloured level patches.
Yep.
So they get the patch each thing again, and then they've got like a little syllabus thing where they know, okay, to get the next one, here's what I need to do and all that. So yeah, just hearing all the different ways because we had similar issues with engagement and building on the ones that have been there, and like you say, the new ones that come through the door every week, and trying not to make it. It is well. I think any combat, any martial art or something like it's that system, isn't it? Of like you got the guys. Oh, I've done this before, so even as
Yeah, yeah.
adults, like, and it's like totally get it. But yeah, no, go for it. Go for it. I'm all intrigued.
But that's like so. I spoke to I actually spoke to Davy Scott Senior and said, how did he do it back in the day? And he had patches the same way that what you're speaking about. And I was just looking about. There's a boy in Singapore who that I used to wrestle with, Gabriel, and they do meerkat wrestling. And I think they were doing that around the 2014 mark, and that's when I went, no, that we can extrapolate this, like, and I found my old notes from 2014 when I was telling Alex about this idea, and yeah, it kind of came to fruition with these characters. So basically now, kids come to the club, they get a T-shirt with a honey badger on it to start with, and that is our honey badger there, and they get this achievement card. So basically on it, that's got the six. So it's got the honey badger, Komodo dragon, lioness, silverback gorilla, bear, and the Glasgow Phoenix Wrestling Club logo, and it tells you what you have to do to get each sticker.
Yeah.
So on the back is all those animal characters that I've just told you about,
So yeah,
and
yeah,
once they make the achievement, they get one of the actual stickers, which they're on there. This is actually the original achievement card here. I've coloured it in and put the stickers on. But yeah, once they then stick them all on there, and they hand that back to me, and then they will level up to either their Komodo or Lioness. We've got a few Komodos in the club now, which is great. I can't remember exactly how long, like how quickly you could progress through it, the entire thing until they get their Phoenix t-shirt. At minimum, to go from a Badger to a Komodo is a year. I think then to get from Komodo or Lioness up to Gorilla is about a year and a half. If like I think three of them, yeah, three of them are like just by time. So have you completed X amount of blocks? Then it's things that they actually need to achieve. So at beginner level, it's like compete at a British wrestling competition, and then there's win X amount at a British wrestling competition. So they do have to have a level of competence before they level up. So I like to think that way, that it's not maybe as subjective as some other sports. Where it's sometimes it's down. I think I'm right in saying it's down to the coach to decide whether you're at that level or not. So to me, it's a wee bit more objective. Which again, these were problems that I had to work through. I didn't just magically there was a bit of trial and error. Like for starters, actually, the original T-shirts were going to be different coloured T-shirts with the character, and I bought all these T-shirts for kids, gave them all out, and I don't know if I've got it. Well, you might be able to see it on the belt later on, but the original logo as well was kind of navy blue and orange, which is similar to United World Wrestling, which is the world governing body. And I thought, well, we'll try and tie in there. So within 6 months, we went through a rebrand where we changed it to black and orange. And it was one of my mates who coaches up at Dundee Wrestling Club, sorry, Dundee MMA Club, Andrew Marley, great guy. Dr. Andrew Marley, I should actually call him because he is. But he asked if he could have a T-shirt with just a giant honey badger on the front of it, and ordered it for him. And then I seen it and I was like, mate, that's what the kids need. They don't need these green T-shirts with it. And so that's what it is now. The kids get a black T-shirt and it's just a giant, the characters on the front of it. And I think it's pretty appealing. So yeah, that's kind of how the club runs in terms of it's 10-week blocks, and we're actually, come October, we're about to open in another centre, not too far from my house. So by October we'll be in 3 locations running this program. They're not really close by to each other, but to me that's a wee bit of the appeal about expanding the club, but not all being in the one place and not having too many people in the mat, but also keeping the costs the way they are for the parents.
Yeah.
So we're like, if we were trying to, each venue is at least probably 15 to 20 minutes drive from one another.
Yeah.
So everybody isn't obviously going to come to every session, just because of where they live. But if they can at least get to 2, all sessions are included in that price. But the mat's never going to be overly busy because everybody isn't obviously going to come to all sessions.
Yeah.
So that's the way we're kind of doing it just now. We've just had 4 level 1 coaches, or just put through their level 1 coaching qualification, which is obviously helpful in the mat when you're dealing with 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
So it's great for keeping them active and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how the club kind of runs. Oh, sorry, in fact, one wee bit before we maybe move on is one thing that I started with was, I think that at the end of each block, apart from getting the stickers and stuff, which is obviously quite fun for the kids, once they get kind of sick of the stickers, there has to be something else to work towards, even if they don't. And I don't know how much you know about wrestling in this country, but to me, there's not enough competitions. They're getting there. Like there's a lot down south, but up in Scotland, we've only kind of got one a year. I know we're trying to expand next year to
Yeah,
two.
we do two a year, and I think we're the most southern. Once you get past like what have you got? You've got Windsor and Slough, I think, and then basically then it's right us right down on the bottom at the south coast, and then can even people from Cornwall coming up to our one because that's it. It's not. Yeah, we can do a few more.
And it's yeah, and it's not an easy. Like we went to Windsor at the start of this year, and we thought about the Southampton one, but it's logistically it's too far. Just we just don't have the resources just now. Maybe next year or certainly the year after. But anyway, I wanted to keep the kids motivated, so I had this commissioned, and this is our club wrestling belt. So
Nice.
it is nice and heavy. It's got the characters on there. They're kind of painted on.
Yeah.
I have since had another one done because when you look at this close up, the attention to detail is not brilliant. So I had another one made. Sometimes I hand out one at the end of the block. Sometimes I hand out two, depending on how close some of the kids are to each other.
Well,
Um,
that's good for them, and in fact, like you say, when they see it being handed out, everyone wants the belt, so it's a good motivational technique
yeah,
to sort of push them on. Yeah, 100%.
absolutely. And we've got a couple of medals and a wee trophy and that. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't over dilute what I'm doing, but to keep them motivated, there's a psychological aspect to it when
Well,
you're working with kids.
that is the big. I mean, I'm a school teacher by day, and that's the biggest thing you can do in anything at the moment is just keep them motivated because there's so many other things now. I mean, at school we're battling phones, we're battling games, PlayStations, and mega and whatever other things it is, switches, and and everyone's got a 10-second memory now. They're all doing the culprit,
I know.
and it's that thing. If you can keep them locked in and keep them engaged, then you're winning. And if
Well,
that's doing it, that's brilliant.
aye, and that so I also coached the kids at the Scottish wrestling camps. We're back down in Largs, and we are at the end of the month again, and that's one thing. They're not allowed to bring their phones into the training hall. They're not allowed them in the dinner hall. They get free time, but no, they're there for a camp and to have fun with their
Yeah,
fellow teammates. Some that they don't get to hang about with all the time. So we encourage that, and their shoes need to be tidy at the side of the mat. Come the Sunday, their beds need to be stripped and all that sort of thing. So because I think we need to instill more discipline in the kids these days, and I'm all for that. You know, I don't know if I'm old school this way, but there has to be competition. I don't buy into this. Everybody gets a medal.
yeah.
I think we need to create competition, but healthy competition. It can't be win at all costs. But I definitely think there's a line there, that you know, another another kid seeing a kid win the belt should be an encouraging thing. It shouldn't
Yeah,
be
no.
demotivating. It should be motivating. And I think that's where, whether you're a teacher or a coach, that's where you've got to, use your skills to, have a word with them and going, you were close, but this is what I need you to do in the next block, and it's worked. I had there was a set of twins, and the Scottish Championships were coming up, and the parents didn't like putting both of them in because they were obviously the same weight, and I could have imagined that would be hell in the house. But I knew the one that was going into the competition, so I think just the way it worked out with the timing made sure that one got the medal the week before at the club. Obviously, the other one's going to the competition. I said, right, well, he's got a medal sitting in the house. You've got to go today. And his bronze medal match, he was in the bronze medal match and won it with 30 seconds to go. And it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. In fact, it was at
Yeah.
the British Championships. So to come third at the British Championships was phenomenal. And that's where, as I say, you've got to use your skills as a coach to know who you can push and when they need a bit of words of encouragement or they need pushed on a bit.
I mean, how do you find it with? I mean, one of the things we have, actually in both wrestling and jiu-jitsu for kids and adults really is, you get those people that are coming along and they're having fun doing it and that's great, but then the competition bit is like, oh no, that's not for me, or we don't want our son competing because he's going to get dropped on his head or whatever. I don't know, like those sorts of things. How do you find with motivating them to compete?
So for me, I think one of the most important parts of teaching kids is having a good relationship with the parents, knowing that they can come and speak to you with any concerns. And I think I've got that with. I mean, I can't think of one actually. One set of parents that they aren't comfortable coming to me and speaking to me. And I'll go to them if I've noticed anything on the mat.
Yeah.
Maybe that, "Oh, listen, he seemed a wee bit like as if he wasn't engaged, something happened." And I'll always offer, I'll speak to the parents. Look, do you mind if I speak to them? This is what I would say. Always running things through the parents. I mean, in our WhatsApp group, I'm notorious for big long texts, but I just feel that making sure that the parents are well informed, they know what's going on in my head, and then they can make the best decisions. We do have kids that just want to come to the club, and I'm happy with that as long as they're enjoying the sport. I think, and I've not come across it yet, but it probably will be at one point where you have someone who is really, really good but doesn't want to compete.
Hmm.
Um, but what can you do? It's got to be their decision. It, I I mean, I'm a dad of three as well, so it's like it's got to be they've got to come to the conclusion or the decision themselves. You can give advice and you want them to be able to come and ask you questions, and there's one or two who I've seen go to competitions and they maybe lose and don't want to go on their second match, and some of them you can convince to go back on, and some of them can't. And I think just being able to say, look, it's all right. And I think also what's important is if you are in competition and that happens, like you need to take stock of yourself, step back and go, right, what does this kid need? You know,
Yeah.
speaking with the parents, like how do they usually react in this sort of situation? What do you think? And that's, yeah, so it's for me, it's communication with the parents. And then at the right time, you bring in the child into that conversation. And that can be with you at the club or you're speaking with them and their parents. Um, so I haven't came across anything that I found too challenging in terms of getting
That's
kids
good.
into competition. And I mean, I think you've got to realise that they're all individual. So you need to kind of there's I don't know what you would say. There's kind of general principles, but you've
Yeah.
got to treat each case in its
Well, they've
own.
all got their own needs and things, haven't they? Everyone's got their own triggers or whatever. So yeah, I totally get you.
Because like there's some kids at the club who their parents came to me and said, "Oh, they've got autism," and there's quite a few, and as I'm sure that's a big spectrum. Some that can't sit still, find it difficult to take instruction, and some like I wouldn't even have noticed had you not tell me.
Yeah.
And again, like I've got one kid in there who I've been coaching him for ages, and we were at a competition, and it wasn't until his mum said to me that he had not learning difficulty, but just like a bit of autism, and he learned in a certain way, and I went, wait here, walked onto the mat, just realizing that or just being told that this kid learned differently. I said, right, see from now on, see if I shout one, that's that position. If I shout two, it's that position. If I shout three, it's that position. Like that, and he went on and won his first match. Like bonkers. So as I always say to parents, help me. Like if you come to me and say my kid's autistic, I was like, well, help me to help you. You need to tell me what happens. Like I can kind of figure it out as we go along, but the best thing is for you to help me. And I kind of find that when I'm teaching, people from jiu-jitsu or another sports, help me
Yeah,
to help you. It can't just be me that I'm telling you how to do something, because if it doesn't feel comfortable to you, it's not going to work for you. And then you've paid money, you've paid me money to teach you something that you're never going to use again.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
because yeah,
pointless. So yeah, I think communication with parents, your seniors, and even the kids to a degree. Once they've been in the sport for um, a fair bit amount of time, and you see that they've got an understanding, then just talk to them and see
that's it.
almost kind of to go back a wee bit. How can you manipulate them and to compete? It's just
Yeah,
that kind of psychological tool.
no, well, no, I totally get that. That's good words there. Yeah, because I mean, as I say, that's just something we come against right the way through. I say in both wrestling and jiu-jitsu of all ages, like, well, just give it a go. It's a good experience, and even to some of the adults. And this,
But,
but
but
yeah,
do you know, it's hard. It seems harder to get the adults involved than it is the kids. Kids are the kids you can get in, and all right, they might have a bad experience, but see, even like losing, nobody likes losing, but they're there with their pals, and
yeah,
when you're on a bus trip or whatever, and it's great fun, and I think if some of the seniors got to be part of that a wee bit more, they'd actually be like, right, when's the next one? So.
yeah.
I think that's just when you've got to use your skills as a teacher and whatever, and communicate and manipulate. For lack of a better word, maybe shouldn't say that.
I don't know. Tell me more then, where did the Kickstarter plan come in then as well with the kids and what you developed there? 'Cause it seemed to be a big success from looking at it.
So, so basically, I was sitting one day in work, and I actually changed my job to to be more 9 to 5 to give the kids consistency and stuff. I used to work shifts and stuff, and I changed my job so that we could really make a go of this. And I was sitting one day, not much was happening, and I was thinking about what other ways can we bring revenue into the club, because you can't make a lot of money just coaching wrestling unless you're doing a lot of PTs and stuff. So I was
Yeah.
thinking how, like, can we get money in for tracksuits and whatever else? And I have no idea where it came from, Brett. It's just I started going, right, we could make a board game. And I just started jotting some ideas down on a bit of paper. I actually found it yesterday, like the first
Hmm.
idea, which was like having two spin wheels and different options and things. And once I kind of got to the point where I thought, okay, I might have something here, I found a website that you could create your own board game, and uh, started making up some cards, and I think I got some spin wheels off of Temu and stuff, and I just started like ordering
Yeah.
things and playing about, and and then I think I got to about version 4, which was costing me a fortune because it was costing like £60 every time I wanted to get a demo version. Um, and I took it to Tabletop Scotland last September. And I took it there to like, because I'm not really even a gamer, right? So I thought, well,
Yeah.
let's take it to the experts and let's get feedback. And loads of people played it, get some really great feedback. One of the best bits of feedback I actually got, and it's so simple, and you just kick yourself for not thinking about it. But on the dice, it's a 12-sided dice or die, and I had writing on it, but because I had writing on it, it was minuscule. You'd need a telescope to read
Mhm.
it. And I walked up to a dice maker and I said, "Look, could you do one that's maybe like slightly bigger?" And he just looked at me and he went, "Why are you trying to make it bigger? Just use symbols." And I was like, like of course, like So I can actually show you that dice now. So that's our 12-sided dice. So it's got a blue phoenix on it, a red phoenix on it, and also a picture of Tusk, our referee elephant.
Three, yeah.
In fact, and Tusk was actually the referee was actually something that came out of that to add a wee bit of a strategic element to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we eventually got to version 6, and I thought, right, okay, how are we going to get this out there? And somebody mentioned Kickstarter. So we started the Kickstarter campaign. By that time, I had got all like, there was copies of the game, all the different cards. So it's a card game that has a dice that if you roll a blue phoenix, you score points. If you roll the red phoenix, it gets discarded and it's now your opponent's turn. And there's a couple of other kind of things in there that basically would happen in a wrestling match.
Yeah.
If you do get a blue phoenix, so your points are scored from your card, you then go to the spin wheel, which has 6 options, one of which is you pin your opponent, game over. 2 is you stay in control and you take another card, so start your turn again essentially.
Yeah.
And 3 are that your opponent counterattacks and it's then your opponent turn. So it's actually like I'm pretty chuffed with it, I'll be honest. Like that this has came from my mind that it's very
It's a
similar to a
brilliant
wrestling
way
match.
of like just getting the rules in and start getting into get the concept of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Because it like does like no two games are ever the same, and it can last pretty much as long as a wrestling match does. And there's a cool wee rule book as well. You know, we got that done, so it's got the rules in it, which is pretty simple, and then even at the end, how to make your own wrestling belt. If you've got a bit of cardboard. So there was that. As part of the Kickstarter package, like I've had all this merchandise done. I've had key rings. I've had temporary tattoos. So like where it works with Kickstarter, there's kind of different levels that you can go
Yeah.
in at, and the target was £1,000. One of the other that hadn't actually started yet. One of the other rewards you could get was the children's book. So having thought that I'd made a pretty decent success of the board game, I started working in the children's book, and that was basically just to give the characters, a wee bit more identity, and again something for the kids to relate to.
Yeah.
So I'd had a script through sheer random coincidence. Started speaking to some people who done some comics. They, in fact, Psycho, just a wee shout out for them. Their
Mm-hmm.
comics. They put me in touch. Carl and Kaz, they put me in touch with an editor and an illustrator. Really nice guy up in Aberdeen. George just edited my work. We went back and forward. Great guy, really funny guy. I think we got to about version 8. And then it was something that we could then take to the illustrator. Unfortunately, things just didn't really work out with the illustrator. I was planning on having it ready last Christmas,
Yeah.
get it out in that sort of time. Didn't happen. Repicked it up at the start of this year, found another illustrator, and I'm quite glad that it worked out that way because the story changed a wee bit in there. My daughter actually had a hearing aid, and I decided that one of the characters should have a hearing aid, so it's a bit more relatable to kids.
Yeah.
And looking in at my own club, realised that kids are neurodiverse, and now it very subtly mentions that one of the characters is like that as well. And it's called "Is There a Wrestler in You?" and that's it right there. It's an interactive storybook as well. So like, as you go through, there's like we highlighted bits that maybe ask kid questions or ask them to take part in the warm up. And with the title of "Is There a Wrestler in You?", you'll be very surprised to hear, Brett, that there actually is a wrestler in you. And come the end, you're encouraged to draw your own kind of avatar in and
Oh, that's
tag us
awesome.
online. So um, yeah, that was. I don't know where the ideas came from, but yeah, that like I'm pleased with those two products, and we've actually just released now because my girlfriend, after we just got the book, came through and went, Ross, I've got it. You need to do a colouring book. So now we have a colouring book. so, but I'm like, I think I've run out of money. I think I'm bankrupt now. So we need to start selling some of these and getting them out there. But I'm going back to that the Tabletop Scotland next month to hopefully show off the finished game and hopefully get a few sales. So, and I'll be taking the book and things along. So that's basically where we are at the minute, Brett. I don't know where the ideas came from. Like it's somewhere in
Brilliant,
here.
because it's such you're engaging on all sorts of different levels, and
Well,
even like the ones that maybe or kids that aren't doing it can be easily enticed with the other things. So you can hopefully get a few more through the door. I mean, I'm just thinking about that, like that book. I'd even have that on my shelf at school for I'm an English teacher. They can read. I know I've got kids that like wrestling, but they can go, okay, go and read that one, and I'm sure they would, and they'd love it.
well, I'll
It's
I'll get a copy of the game and the book sent down to you, Brett. And you
oh,
can
that'd
let
be
me know
amazing.
this. Now that you
Yeah,
can
I'll
let
get
me
you
know
the
the feedback.
feedback, and yeah, we'll do a live do some research for you in the classroom.
That'd be awesome. That'd be class because I think it can be a tool for that. Um, I mean, obviously the way we usually entice them in is they come along thinking it's the WWE, and as I usually start with, I don't have a cooler name than Ross. I don't put makeup on. I don't jump off top turnbuckles, but we do get to wear spandex. Maybe only say that to the adults, don't say it to the kids, but
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's
um,
true. Yeah, and there's no chairs either.
exactly, which was obviously a bit disappointing. And but they try it, and a lot of them do really enjoy it. And there is a lot of the kind of entertainment wrestling schools now popping up about the place, which seem to be popular. So it's hard. It's even
I think
harder again to kind of rival them.
I think what's good in the actual like you say the entertainment wrestling now is that there seems to be at that point now where a lot of them are looking back at the amateur and the grappling, and you're seeing that coming in, and it's being mentioned. Like say, like Joe Hendry, now his achievements have been mentioned. He's not just the pop singing wrestler. They talk about his other stuff, and there's other wrestlers as well who've got amateur backgrounds or
Well,
combat sport grappling backgrounds, and it's kind of you're like from Ronda Rousey through to Shayna Baszler and all the other guys in between.
plus you've got Brock
And
Lesnar, Ken
it's
Shamrock. You've got
yeah.
old school.
Dan
You've got Kurt
Seven, all the
Angle.
yeah,
So yeah,
that's what I mean. So it seems to be back in like that, but every so often they kind of move away from it again. Then it's back in vogue again. But I think it's the combat sport boom at the moment. So they're they're the sports entertainment is becoming more sports again at the moment. I think because
and
it's
that's
what's
and
cool.
hopefully there can be a bit of crossover. I mean, there was a couple of that style of wrestling. Like I see they're quite big on Instagram and stuff, and try to entice them along with the belt. And go like, come on, you can challenge us for our belt. You can do a skit, which
Yeah,
promotes our type of wrestling, but it's kind of what you're about as well. And um, if they can get in, it's maybe mutually beneficial in some
mm.
sort of way. Um, Nobody's came in yet, but hopefully at some point they will. Maybe some of them will see this and aye, they're more than welcome to come along. But aye, that's kind of Glasgow Wrestling Club in a nutshell, and a wee bit about
I
myself
think
as
it's
well. But
brilliant how you're doing it and how you're building up. So what other I mean, targets do you have now for yourself? I mean, you said possibly that you might sneak back into the Scottish Championships again, maybe. I mean, have you got any other goals or target, as a competitor or as a coach now, that or a bucket list of, that you're looking forward to maybe tick a few things off?
um, I mean, I want to. I think the reason I want to do the Scottish Championships and get myself fit for that is, having my three kids actually see me wrestling, instead of just me telling these boring stories, you know.
We like
Um,
that, Dad. Yeah.
yeah. So I. Do you remember when I went to the Commonwealth Games in 2015? Like that
Yes.
one's guy, I'm getting a bit old now. Uh, but yeah, so I'd like them to just see me wrestle, and share that with me. My oldest, he comes along to the camps and some of the competitions, and my youngest, um, he's only just about to turn 2, but he can't wait to get in a wrestling mat. I mean, last night because there was a storm up here, we didn't get out to training, so I done a wee video for the kids, and wee Bodie was just he had his wee wrestling t-shirt on and he was helping me do the video. So that's for me personally. I just want to see the club grow. Like, I would like to do it full time, which is going to be a challenge. um I'll need to be trying to take on a lot more PTs, trying to sell a lot more books and games.
Yeah.
um so really more kind of grow. The way I see it is there's more of a brand here, potentially. There's the possibility to almost franchise it in a way because of the program that I've kind of built. I think that that is something that could go to other clubs. It's just finding a way to put that to clubs that it's suitable for. Obviously, finding the right coaches that, I mean, almost selfishly, that I trust to do it justice.
Well, yeah, 100%.
So that,
'Cause it's
you
your,
know,
I totally get that. Yeah, 'cause it's your scheme, it's your plan, it's
yeah.
yeah,
So,
I get
so,
that.
so, so you want somebody who's not going to just go, like one of their kids is suddenly, within 2 years, has suddenly got a Phoenix T-shirt, and you're like, "Well, that's not possible." And it'll be impossible for me to, um, monitor that system really. So, yeah, I'd like to see it go. Other clubs opening up, with potentially using this system, but it's obviously got to be something that works for them and for myself, in terms of uh, cost. So that is my kind of long term ambition, is to have um, more clubs that are using this system, um, and kind of coach more coaches that maybe don't have the experience that they need to do this. Whereas, because one thing we're lacking is a lot of pure wrestling coaches,
Hmm.
in the whole of the UK. I would say, we're getting there, but people that really know the sport to teach it. Um, there's only a few that I would say, you do your own. Even though I run it in a block, I don't need to tell you what to do in a block. You're perfectly
Yeah,
capable of doing that. Whereas some might need a wee bit more structure to it, and some might need some real hand holding to do it. And I would like to develop a program where I can go, there you go. If you've got any questions, come back to me. But hopefully that's a
yeah,
good starter for you. So I think that's definitely my kind of goal, um, for the club and for the characters, and where I'd like to see it end up, and hopefully I can turn that into my full time job, because it's I've been passionate about wrestling for over 25 years now. So I feel it's kind of in my blood, and as I say, I think my youngest is definitely going to wrestle. So, um, if I don't think I'd be able to sit in the stands. I can sit in the corner and keep quiet, but from the the stands, I think it'd be difficult. And again, it's being able to share that with your kids as well, isn't it? And we've got a lot of great kids at the club, and we've got 2 more competitions this year, and hopefully there'll be a more solid plan in place. But you know, we've been to 4 competitions already this year, and I just love it. Just what my job's done at the club, like on competition day. Apart from maybe when I'm sat in the corner and screaming, like, it's quite a relaxed. I just love, like, just seeing them getting warmed up and trying to just pass on that kind of last wee bit of knowledge, or trying to
Yeah.
keep them calm before they go in, and then obviously if they win, you know that like you know that you've just had some sort of part to play in that. It's brilliant. And then obviously the harder part of the job is if they lose, how do you bring them back up?
Especially
Um,
if they got to go out again later in a minute. Yeah.
yeah, and I do. I just I love that, and I think when a kid like trusts you to be in their corner and know that you've got their back, like there's not really a bigger compliment than that, to be honest. That regardless of what they do out there, you're still behind them, and proud of them. So I want to do that full time for the next 30 years. If you offer me that and the same money I'm on the now, sold. You know.
Ah, fair play, fair play. So, if anyone is listening to this at the moment and they're thinking, yes, I want in on this, or I want to contact this man to talk about this further, what is the best way for anyone to get hold of you?
So I've not even mentioned our kick-ass website. It was done by one of the dads. It's incredible. It's www.gwc.scot. Honestly, check it out. It's absolutely amazing. It's got a big shout out to Stuart Rogers. It just looks the business. So that, or on our Instagram or Facebook handles, Glasgow_Wrestling_Club. Drop us a message. I'm sure my number is on both those or all
Yeah,
three of those kind of sites. Just drop us a message if you want to get involved, or even further afield if clubs want to come up at all. I'm always open to ideas. Any way to expand the sport. I'm always happy to hear what somebody wants to if they want to work with us, or just put something on together, or want to pick my brains about what we've talked about.
yeah,
I'm more than happy to have that conversation. Hopefully, I can learn something from you in return. Because I don't have all the answers. I can only tell you what I've done,
yeah.
but I love hearing input from other places. And with you, with your jiu-jitsu background, I'm sure there's plenty crossover and things that I could learn. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to get in touch, please don't hesitate. Like, I'm always
Cool.
open to
And I'll
conversation.
I'll put all those in the show notes as well, so it'll all be linked for you as well. So people, all you got to do is click on the show note. You only got to look it up. There you go.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out this evening to do this. I've
Yeah,
learned a lot from just listening to you, and I'm going to have a dive in on all the other stuff now. So thank you very much.
awesome. Cheers, Brett. Thanks very much. Cheers.
A big thank you to Ross McFarlane for joining us this week on the Grapple of Your Eye show. If you check out the show notes, you'll be able to see the links and contact details to Ross, as well as the Glasgow Wrestling Club and all the products that they have there that he discussed. In the meantime, you can keep up with us at the grapplershow.com, where you can see all of our notes and episodes of the past. You can also keep up with us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and loads of the others. And if you'd like to listen to your podcasts, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and any of your podcast apps. Or if you'd like to watch us, you can check us out on YouTube as the Grapple of Your Eye Show, where new episodes drop every Thursday at 7 a.m. But there's lots of shorts and other things on there and past episodes to keep you entertained in the meantime. We'll be back next week with another new guest, so stay safe and stay on the mats.
I tend to tell people from an amateur wrestler to a professional wrestler, to a cage fighter, to being the alpha male of senior citizens now.
I would definitely recommend BJJ. I say quite frequently, I think it's really helped Clay. It's given him some structure, it's given him discipline, and also, but probably the most important thing, it's given him a routine. I mean, with the training, he knows where we're going to be, what day. He goes into the same gym or the same gyms now, because he trains at different gyms, and it's helped him. It's built relationships with his peers. He's got great friends. He's got some great role models in the gyms that he trains at, with not only the coaches but all the adults that are there. And it's just a great environment. It took me by surprise. It wasn't what I expected when we first walked into a gym.
And it's interesting in that there are a number of tournaments that are promised and organized with the Future Federation. And in one of them, there's a clause there will be tournaments with strikes involved, but they will be held under different regulation. And I saw that, and I completely missed that the first time I read that document, right? And I'm going, holy cow. I think that our forefathers, our founding fathers, they had the wisdom to see that a competition rule was going to drift away from the reality of combat, and that a rule set with strike was necessary in order to maintain that foot in reality.
When I qualified for the Olympic Games and being the first female in wrestling for New Zealand, I think that really took the cake. I think that was the best feeling ever, and I think about it often still, and it still makes me feel really good.